Welcome to High Street Matters, a podcast from BIRA, the British Independent Retailers Association. My name's Steve Dyson, a journalist who's interviewing business owners and experts about issues that impact independent retailers today. We're talking to a cross-section of businesses from across the UK, from single retail outlets to shopping centres, and from large department stores to traders in leisure and hospitality. High Street Matters will discuss crucial subjects such as consumer trends, relevant government legislation, business rates and staffing, providing top tips to help traders stay ahead of the retail curve. In this episode, we're going to discuss the importance of accessibility, exploring why and how independent traders should focus on making their retail spaces more inclusive. I'm going to be interviewing Tony Alvin, General Manager at the Touchwood Solihull Shopping Centre, to find out how embracing accessibility is helping to drive commercial success at his venue. I'll also be talking to Andrew Goodacre, the Chief Executive of BIRA, about this theme. But first, I want to talk to Ailsa Forbes. Ailsa's a retail consultant with Pyewackett & Sack, and last year she published a report called Healthy Retail, Hints and Tips, which was supported by the University of Stirling, the International Longevity Centre and UK Research and Innovation as part of the UK Government's Healthy Ageing Challenge. Hello to you, Ailsa.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for the invite. Delighted to be here.
Ailsa, let me be quite blunt about this. Why should independent traders, who are often struggling with increased costs, why should they spend time and money on making their retail spaces more inclusive?
Sure. Well, above all else, it makes commercial sense. And a headline statistic tells us that by 2040, older households could be responsible for spending 63 pence in every pound spent by customers. And there's also a qualitative study which shows a positive in-person experience turns that one-off customer into a loyal repeat customer, whether that's a clean toilet, a welcoming smile, product at the right height. Customers spend in shops when they feel comfortable and welcome. And there's also a moral and social benefit too, not only to independent retailers and customers, but back to the local community, keeping that beating heart alive. So our local shops are really vital to the health of our communities, and retailers have a key role in enabling customers to live healthier, happier and more active lives by the actions and approach they take. So this is not only in the provision of the essentials, but here's an opportunity to shape the look and feel of our public spaces and offering scope for social interactions for people who may be living on their own and are isolated. So it's the right thing to do all round.
I get what you're saying, Ailsa. More accessible retail spaces seem to be, in your view, a joint benefit. They help older customers and those with access needs, and the business reaps the benefits. But what I'm trying to get at, aren't those quite small benefits? I mean, when you talk about society as a whole, there's a wide custom base, and these wide doors and, disabled toilets, they're not for everyone, are they? I mean, it's a lot of investment for quite a small benefit.
I understand what you're saying, but there are massive benefits, and a really key statistic is that high street shops lose £267 million each month in the UK by not being accessible to disabled customers. And 1 in 4 people, for example, with dementia, give up shopping post-diagnosis. So if you turn those two stats around alone, there's the vast benefits of addressing this issue, and it needs to be recognised that older customers increasingly have more wealth than other sectors. So people age 55 and over have on average 25 times the assets of individuals aged between 16 and 24. So you can see the commercial case building here. It shows that the biggest, what's also evident is that older demographic are buying bigger ticket items, so recreation, in culture, in transport, household goods and services. So also to add to that, to blow a stereotype out of the water, in 2020, over 65% of over 65s embraced shopping online. So this demographic is becoming more confident at shopping online, and failing to look at your business being more inclusive could see them staying at home and shopping at home instead of spending money in your shop.
Okay, I think you've made a sound business case for independent traders to make their retail spaces more accessible. Let's find out what to do about that then. If a trader listening is keen to do things, I mean, obviously, a ramp, wider access, but what else? Give me a list of what they need to be thinking about.
Sure. Well, I don't think you need to be, as an independent retailer, don't be fazed by the wealth of information that's out there. You don't have to do this all at once, and just picking one easy, accessible tip or trick is a really great start. After all, independent retailers are really busy, dedicated, multitasking people. So I get this, but making inclusive shopping spaces better for everyone it also brings in other sectors too that are currently not being included. So I think firstly, stepping into your customers' shoes and understanding your shop from their perspective is a really good start. So, for example, making sure the entrance is easy to navigate, keeping the stock in familiar places and aisles free of clutter, providing somewhere to sit that might not necessarily be in your shop. It could be a bench outside, or making sure that signage is clear and simple and easy to read, and just having a chat with customers that come in. All of those different things and more are a great start to building an inclusive and really welcoming space.
I'm listening to the list, and it sounds like it's great sense, Ailsa. But at the same time, I know how independent traders are busy. I mean, they're busy with their finance, with their turnover, with their staff, with keeping up with their products and services, with paying their rent and their rates. So all these things as an extra sounds to me as an outsider like a long list of things to do. And you said, and more. So, there's even more to come. Is getting all this right a real challenge for the average independent trader who on many occasions might be one person?
Absolutely. No, I really get that. The person that's behind the till is often the person going down to the cash and carry, and a myriad of other tasks to do with that shop. I think it's if you start making one step in the right direction and just taking one thing to concentrate on, for example, there are some great free access training modules for staff that it could just be a reference to them. Say, when you have 15 minutes, go in and take a look at this, and it will, talk about different inclusive language to use when dealing with customers, for example. So I think it's really important to recognise that whilst there's a lot of information out there and could overload, just picking one thing to start and spreading the word amongst your staff. If you have extra staff within your retail environment, is a great start. And it's just important that those little things, those little adjustments, different way of looking at things will make sure that your inclusive shopping space is better for everyone. And that is a clear message to shoppers that word of mouth will spread, and they'll be telling people about the positive experience, resulting in more retail spend in your business.
Also, finally, if someone wants to find out more, what's the report called again? Remind us, and where can they get it?
Sure. So the report's called Healthy Retail Hints and Tips on Accessibility. It's a free downloadable report. It takes 6 minutes to read, and you can access this and 4 other free guides and 5 best practice videos too at ilcuk.org.uk, and this is on the Retail Impact page.
Ailsa Forbes, a retail consultant with Pye Wackett & Sack, many thanks for sharing your expertise with High Street Matters. Listening to that interview with me was Andrew Goodacre, the Chief Executive of BIRA, the British Independent Retailers Association. Hello to you, Andrew.
Hello, Steve.
Andrew, you heard Ailsa there summarising her report on accessibility and why traders should take it seriously. She was talking, of course, about what traders themselves can do in their own retail spaces, which was great. But for many people, that theme of accessibility and inclusivity is about getting to the shops, isn't it? It's about the increasingly difficult aspects of things like parking and public transport, and if you're driving, where to park and how much it costs.
That is exactly what many independent retailers will talk to me about. They want to be accessible. They can do the things they can control themselves. But a lot of the time, they see steps taken around them where people are putting barriers up to coming to the shops and to the high streets. And often parking is seen as one of those barriers. All too often, at the moment, we see local authorities and local councils wanting to change the way their high streets, their town centres work. Some of it driven by wanting to be greener, wanting to be more sustainable, wanting to be, in their eyes, more inclusive. And a lot of those plans invariably lead to pedestrianised areas, a realigning of the road network, effectively removing cars out of the town centre. Now, I haven't got a problem with that per se. I think having an eye on the environment, having an eye on sustainability, making that area better for people to spend time and more attractive for people to spend time, yes, all for that. But when you start changing a place and creating unseen barriers to people using that place, that starts when these plans are not cohesive, they're not thought out. There's no corresponding investment in the infrastructure, in the public transport, alternative ways of people accessing the high streets and town centres that we want people to, where we want people to spend time. And car parking just seems an easy option for local councils, local authorities to tamper with, to remove, to move out the way, as a way of preventing cars, as a way of dissuading people from using cars. And then the added problem we have on top of that is that car parking is also an income to local authorities. You know, where they own car parks, I think on annually, local authorities in England and Wales earn upwards of £1 billion from car parking fees. Now, that's a huge amount of money. And it's, in these times, austerity times, it's tempting for local authorities to increase the cost of car parking in the small amount of spaces that are being left to car park. And again, that adds another problem to the high streets around the UK, because it becomes inaccessible. And if you are lucky to find a space, it becomes expensive. And when you compare that to a retail park or a shopping centre where car parking is plentiful and often free, and you stay there as long as you want, then from a consumer point of view, the choice is easy. If I have to use my car to get something, I'll go to where I can park it easily and cheaply. So we get really frustrated. Independent retailers, all businesses on the high street become really frustrated when they want to appeal to people. They want to appeal to all age groups, all sorts of people, to bring them into the place, make it feel vibrant, make it feel busy, make it feel diverse. And yet the barriers stopping this are often not within their control. It's local authorities raising those barriers and really doing their best, seemingly doing their best to keep people away. And those are the frustrations that come out. And yet, as I also referenced, there is such an opportunity here if we can create accessible places to people who want to use a high street but don't feel able to because the facilities are not there for them to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the people you're talking about, of course, are older people and families of young children, and perhaps people with mobility problems. They're not going to be finding it very easy to use bikes or to use transport which is not as regular or has been axed from their area. Those are the people who need their cars, aren't they?
Yeah, cars will always be used by parts of the population at different times. One of the new trends in retail in COVID, when shops were closed, was click and collect. That became popular. The shop's closed, but you can still order your items online and then, or phone up even some businesses and go and collect them from the doorstep effectively. Now, that has become an important part of retail for large and small retailers. But if you can't get near the shop on the high street to click and collect the item, it's not easy. Riding a bike with a TV across the handlebars, for instance, that's not going to happen. So once again, we're not actually creating the accessibility to allow retailers to trade to meet the new demands and the new needs of customers. So it's all about asking local authorities when they're planning their places and wanting to change their places to talk to business and say, what is it you need to thrive and survive on this high street? Because without those businesses, then people won't want to go there anyway. So we do need to put the businesses at the forefront of thinking.
I was quite interested in what you said as well, Andrew, about it being almost an opportunity for businesses because, yes, whilst you've got the local authorities and the local councils who are perhaps in charge of the parking or the redevelopments which are excluding cars, once people get to the shops, once people get to the high streets, it's crucial that retailers make it as attractive as possible, especially to those people with some accessibility needs.
No, it is. And I think some of the points that Ailsa made in her talk with you are absolutely relevant. I know Ailsa, I've met her 2 or 3 times, and she's very passionate about this and has done the research to justify, to back up what she's saying. And it's that information, it's that evidence that is absolutely crucial that we need to share with businesses, small and large alike, to show them the opportunity that this represents, that being accessible to a wider age group, to an older age group, to people with disabilities is really an opportunity for that business. And I can think of 2 or 3 that do it well. And then one near me in particular is actually a shopping centre in Solihull, near to where I live. And when I visit that, I see a whole array of businesses, large and small, working together. But the place itself has been developed in such a way that everyone is made to feel welcome and everyone can access it, walking to it, driving to it, pushing a pram to it. It's all available to them, and that's ultimately what we would like to see happen in more places, on high streets and in shopping centres.
No, thanks very much for bringing up Touchwood Solihull, because you, of course, introduced me to Tony Alvin, and I had a chat with him earlier to find out what he had to say. Tony, please start by giving our audience a quick feel for Touchwood Solihull. I mean, describe the shopping centre in terms of the type it is, the traders you have there, but also, how's it faring in 2024 for customers, footfall and commercial success?
Sure. Well, I guess there's some fortune to having a shopping centre in Solihull. We're in an affluent area, most affluent borough outside of the home counties. So if you're going to be in the West Midlands, this is a good spot to build a premium shopping centre. John Lewis is our anchor store. They're probably the biggest driver. And, had we had one of those other sort of department stores, we might be in different fettle right now. But as it stands, we're 98% let. We've got a number of stores wanting to come and join the scheme that we don't have space for. And things are going really well. We've, as well as John Lewis, we've got Next, Zara, River Island, Polestar, Miele, extensive restaurants. We've got a cinema. So it's a real modern shopping centre. And as far as, I guess, in the past, your restaurants and bars were there just to keep people fed and watered while they were shopping. Things have really turned about face now, and people come out for the day out or to meet with people, or go and dine and then do some shopping while you're here. So yeah, it's going very well.
Do you have many independent traders, Tony?
We have 50% of our restaurants are now independent. And whilst it's a little bit more difficult to get independent retailers into the centre, we do have our fair share as well. But it's something we're driving for. We realise how important that authenticity is to the public. And really in the dining space where we've gone from kind of 10% independent to 50%, it's really given us a point of difference over our competitors. So it's something that's really important to us. And we actually, if there's an opportunity to bring in someone independent, whether it's retail or hospitality, we go the extra mile to try and get them in and see how we can make it work, because we appreciate the covenant won't always be as strong as as a Zara or a John Lewis.
Now, our High Street Matters podcast today, Tony, is focusing on accessibility. How important is that theme for Touchwood Solihull, both for the centre but also for your traders, to engage with older customers, those who have mobility challenges, those who have children and prams, etc.? How important is it?
Well, it's hugely important. Firstly, we have an older demographic here using Touchwood. Some of that may be because of how we set ourselves up to be accessible, but some of that is that Solihull is a town centre immediately on our doorstep, rather than just the borough. It's got quite a high age profile, so we see a disproportionate amount of over 55s in the centre. Those over 55s have got money to spend as well, so we need to make sure we're able to cater for everyone. But it is a really important sector for us here. And some years ago, I've been here for 6 years now, but some time ago, the council stopped providing their shop mobility service. And I was delighted that when I came into Touchwood, I found that Touchwood had taken on that shop mobility service and had begun to run that with shop mobility charity. And that has continued to run here. It's free to use. And whilst the charity themselves wound up at the end of last year, we're continuing to offer that service for free to our guests. There is a suggested donation, but if I'm honest, most people don't pay that. They just use the service for free.
Just briefly explain to those in our audience who don't know it, what is shop mobility and how does that work?
Yeah, so the shop mobility service, we operate that out of our Touchwood car park, and guests can hire a mobility scooter, or maybe just a wheelchair that can be, a manual wheelchair that can just be pushed along by a relative. So it's not just for somebody who is wheelchair bound. Maybe it's somebody who has temporary accessibility requirements. It's really there for anybody wanting to or needing to use that service. So we've got a variety of different bits of equipment for different needs. And the team that have been down there for a good while, they're all a little bit older themselves, really caring bunch, and they'll take that time with our shoppers to find the right mobility scooter or equipment for them to give them greater accessibility, not just to Touchwood, but the wider town centre as well.
That sounds fantastic, Tony. Apart from shop mobility, what else are you doing there at Touchwood Solihull to make yourselves more accessible? What specific things do you have in play?
So we work with a number of different charities to provide training to our team. So whether it's Age UK or Autism West Midlands, just to make sure that our team are ready and able to handle any queries that might come up from the public. Sometimes, we have up to 12 million visitors a year, and sometimes we'll have people that are a bit disorientated, bit lost, and we'll need to give them a bit of time. Maybe it's just helping them find their car, or maybe it's a bit more serious and we need to call someone for help. So first and foremost, we've got a team that are ready to help if that's required. Then some things that we've introduced over my last 6 years here, and really off the back of the Purple Tuesday accessibility campaign, which we support every year, where we invite the public to give us some feedback on what we could do better. But we have dedicated facilities for a carer to help someone get changed in the washroom areas, the changing places facilities. We have a quiet hour for the first hour of every Saturday morning. So Saturday's our busiest day of the week, but between 9 and 10, it's a little bit quieter, and we ask all of our retailers to turn off their music, turn down the lights, and we have a session of shopping that is not quite such a sensory overload as a shopping centre can be. Some people said, if you're really serious about this, you do it in the middle of the afternoon, when, of course, the truth is you can't do it in the middle of the afternoon because we don't need any lights or music to be overwhelming. The place is absolutely packed. So it does need to be an off-peak time. And what we've really seen with that is, families have actually shared this feedback with us, that they're able to bring the whole family out for shopping in that first hour. You might see one of the children with headphones on because they're in an environment that there's no way they'll be able to come into Touchwood when it's busy or when the music's playing and all the rest of it. So that's been great to see. And then something that celebrated a second anniversary 2 weeks ago, a week ago actually, was our wellness drop-in. So you'll be aware of this, with the way retail and hospitality are evolving, shopping centres have a number of vacancies. And coming out of the pandemic, we lost 26 stores out of our 105 over a 2-year period. We've filled almost all of those now, but we do still have 2 vacant units. And we're using one of those, and we keep moving it around to where we have a vacancy. And the chances are, even an almost fully let centre is going to have a vacancy at some time in between one retailer going and another coming in. And we move the wellness drop-in around. It's manned by Push On Wellbeing, which is a local charity based in Chelmsford Wood, and they offer free tea and coffee. You can buy a slice of cake. They'll give you a bit of chat and a bit of company, and it's really busy. We've got a high street facing, male facing unit on the corner where we most recently moved them, and they've been operating within Touchwood for 2 years. So that's been one of the real success stories, I would say.
And just a note on the traders, Tony, how involved are they in those initiatives that you're operating, or have they got anything extra that they do themselves?
Yeah, well, they've all been really accommodating with the quiet hour, and I guess you've got lots of people managing stores that are not decision makers when they're part of large brands. So the independents are easy to work with because they say, "Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. We'll do that." Whereas for the larger stores, we're having to rely on that they're going to have to check with a couple of area managers or something. But we've got a good environment where they've all been really supportive actually, and that's been great. I can think of a specific instance with Purple Tuesday where an independent newsagent here, someone gave feedback that since he moved his shop around, they can't get a wheelchair in properly. They can go to the counter, but they can't get to everything they need. And literally just by turning a mobile counter on casters around, he's actually seen his business increase by people being able to actually get into his store. And it felt like a bit of a, he should have known. It was his feedback. But it was only when he'd received that feedback from the public that he realised, what a no-brainer, and was really delighted by the positive impact that it had on him, just making some small changes that didn't cost him anything to making his store more accessible.
No, that's a good specific example. In general, the other things that you're doing, the shop mobility, the Purple Tuesday, etc., do you find that it's made a difference? That's the big question. Has being more accessible produced more commercial success?
Definitely, yeah. I think these initiatives always pay for themselves in the long run. It was a real shame when Marks and Spencer's came out of Solihull Town Centre and went to the retail park, and we know firsthand from shop mobility users what an impact that's made, and for that age group particularly, Marks and Spencer's quite reliant on it. Seems a decision was made around without those people in mind, and was purely a commercial decision based on rents and all the rest of it. So I think it pays to listen to your customers, and some of those customers may have accessibility issues. I think any business is able to listen to the public and respond is going to be successful.
Do you have any future plans to make accessibility even better, Tony?
We're always looking at how we can improve accessibility. So it's not just a Purple Tuesday once a year conversation. we're regularly speaking to our guests. We're looking to see what we can do better at any given time.
Tony Alvin, General Manager at the Touchwood Solihull Shopping Centre. Many thanks for talking to me on High Street Matters.
You're welcome.
Still with me is Andrew Goodacre, the Chief Executive of BIRA. Andrew, the approach of business leaders like Tony Alvin of Touchwood Solihull, it's actually very refreshing to hear it, isn't it?
It is. I've met Tony. He sits in the local chambers with me. We talked a few times online, but I've actually been to the centre now. I've been as a customer several times because it's near to where I live, but now he showed me around it as well, and his enthusiasm for it is really to be admired. He's very proud of what they're trying to do there, and he's very proud of Touchwood being a community orientated centre. He recognises his local market. He wants to work with his local market, and he recognises that for Touchwood and places like that to be successful, they have to reach out to all of those markets in and around his area. So, I don't think it's unique, but I think what Tony does, he does it very well. He does it in a really positive way, and he engages the businesses around his vision.
What came home to me when I listened to Tony Alvin speaking was how he and his traders aren't seeing accessibility as a problem, rather they're treating it almost as a business opportunity.
And this is the absolute message that we've always tried to talk about and engage our members with when we talk about accessibility. And we talk about accessibility to local authorities and local councils and planners as well. Making reasonable adjustments for your customers should not be a hardship. It should not be seen as a cost that is a burden to you and your business. I accept it is a cost, but I think in this podcast, listening to Ailsa, listening to Tony, and I know from my own experience talking to individual retailers around the UK, that small steps can make a huge amount of difference, and some of it is cost. It's not always high cost, but the returns can be significant, and these small steps can be very simple. We heard about quiet times for shoppers who need a bit more space, a bit more care given to them, a bit more time allowed for them, and I know retailers who do that. I know independent retailers who openly adopt the sunflower lanyard and welcome those people who wear the lanyard to display the fact they need a bit more support in making their decisions, in enjoying their experience in the shop. And the great thing that independents have, and I see this far and wide, over and above a large chain, is the personal service that they can provide. They know they're in that local community. They're part of the local community. They know more of their customers by first name, and they're able, I believe, if they can just keep on that personal service, meeting the needs of customers based on the customer, not based on the stereotypical nature of the person, then actually they will get a reputation for really looking after their customers. And that service gets rewarded with loyalty and with people using their shop. It's simple things. It's easy stuff. It's making labels that are easy to read. It's taking time to explain something to people. It's taking time just to give them the chance to get their thinking sorted and organized. It's providing seating. It's providing play areas so people can leave children in some space there. All these examples I see around there in different types of businesses that just allow that experience to become something that people remember and will bring people back in the future as well.
Andrew Goodacre, the Chief Executive of BIRA, thanks very much for joining me. And thanks to you, our audience, for listening to High Street Matters, an original podcast series for BIRA, the British Independent Retailers Association. If you enjoyed today's podcast, you can find out more about this and other related subjects by visiting BIRA's website at bira.co.uk. Meanwhile, we'll be back soon with more interviews with some of the UK's most successful independent retailers and top experts here at BIRA. High Street Matters. Thanks for listening.